We're at the Greenyards for our final game of the weekend in round 6 of the FOSROC Super Series Sprint, and it's 6th against 5th as Southern Knights take on Boroughmuir Bears. Welcome to the Greenyards for what is our last league game in this year's Sprint Series ahead of next weekend's playoff matches. We already know that this game will have no bearing on the final league placings, and the Bears and the Knights will go head to head once again next Saturday up at Meggetland to determine which of the two will finish in 5th place. So today really all about finding form, building confidence, and perhaps taking a psychological edge into next weekend's rematch. Delighted to be joined in commentary this afternoon by Dale Clancy.
Yeah, it's an interesting tie, even though that both teams are at the bottom of the pile in terms of the Sprint Series League. But both clubs themselves, both teams have made small strides this season in terms of where they left off last year. Bears have put in a lot of really good performances, running the top teams really close. The Knights have improved as well, got a little bit more structure. And you feel now, going in ahead of this fixture, going into next week, you know, it's more about bragging rights and starting to prepare about the rest of the league campaign. So it's going to be an interesting game, and I'm sure both teams will be certainly wanting to knock 10 bells out of each other anyway.
Well, we've already had a fantastic weekend of rugby so far with 2 matches played. First and second in the league going head to head last night, and then at 3 o'clock this afternoon, Heriots and Stirling Wolves playing at Golden Acre. And Ayrshire Bulls, well, they led 26-24 at half time against Watsonians Rugby, down to 14 men, Watsonians, and the Ayrshire Bulls ran away with it in the second half, 59-24 winners. So they will finish in top place, and they'll have a home tie next weekend in the first versus second playoff, and they'll be joined in that one by Heriots Rugby, who saw off stiff challenge from Stirling Wolves this afternoon in Edinburgh. So you can see the effect on the league table. We now know the top 2, Ayrshire Bulls and Heriots Rugby, and they will face off at Milbray next Friday night, and then next Saturday at 5 o'clock Watsonians Rugby will play Stirling Wolves in the battle for 3rd place. And as we said earlier, the bottom 2, nothing can change today. Boroughmuir Bears and Southern Knights rooted to the bottom 2 places, and they will face off up at Meggetland next weekend to decide who will finish in 5th place. As Dale said, the Knights have played well in patches but struggled with injuries. They're still looking for that elusive first win of the season. And the Boroughmuir Bears, just the one win to their name. That was against the Ayrshire Bulls, league leaders, in round 3, but they were unable to build from there, losing 2 consecutive Edinburgh derbies on home soil. Although they did push league champions Watsonians very close last Friday night. An absolutely glorious afternoon here in Melrose, even with their picnics out.
Yeah, I know where I'm heading at half time now.
So let's have a look at the teams. So the home side, Jack Dobie comes into the starting side at Loosehead Prop alongside captain Russell Anderson and Dan Gamble. And Jamie Campbell has a new second row partner in the shape of Will Hopes, who showed up well coming off the bench last weekend up at Stirling. And an unchanged back row for the home side, Gary Young, Alan Ferry and Rudy Brown. Callum Davidson gets a start at half-back this week, with Rory Brand dropping to the bench, and he'll be alongside Callum Grieve, another player who did well once he changed positions last week, had to move in from 12 to 10 and really got the Southern Knights attacking a little wider. And then the centres, Adam Hall will partner Zach Smith. On the wings, Finn Douglas moves across to the left wing to accommodate Aidan Cross returning to the starting side, and Ollie Melville once again will play at fullback. And then for the visitors, so Luca Alessandri comes into a much changed starting side. 7 changes forced upon Boroughmuir Bears this week. He's alongside Arthur Allen and Marcus Goodwin in the front row. Josh King and Jack Fisher, established pairing in the second row, and Liam McConnell makes his first start for the Bears this season in the absence of captain Craig Keddy. He's alongside Scott McGinley and Kieran Westlake at number 8, with Tristan Andrews dropping to the bench. In the back line, Brodie Young and Tom Quinlan, an all Newcastle University half-back pairing. Scott Robson takes over from Keddy as captain. He's alongside Alex Tom in the centres. And the wings, Mason Cullen and Joe Jenkins. And Adam Scott replaces Callum Ram at fullback. So Dale, having had a look at the teams, who should we keep our eye on this evening?
You know, both teams have had to change a lot of personnel throughout the whole campaign, but you know, you mentioned Callum Grieve. He's been kind of plopped about the whole park for the Southern Knights. He's played a bit of full-back inside centre, but I feel 10's probably his best position. You know, you did explain there, he gets the team a little bit wider, bringing the players like Ferry and Brown in the back row, getting them into the wider channels to attack those kind of weak arms. So, you know, they'll be looking to try and use those personnel a bit further out. But especially for the likes of Boroughmuir Bears, the players in there, Robeson is always a really, really industrious character at inside centre, and Josh King's a bit of a powerhouse in the middle row. So, you know, really, really good players in both squads. But, you know, I think it does highlight the changes and how both teams have had to merge and swap throughout the whole campaign. So, it's going to be an interesting game, and I'm sure there'll be a few players out there wanting to put their hand up ahead of the rest of the season coming ahead.
Just waiting on the two sides coming out. The Boroughmuir replacements already out on the pitch, holding rucking shields. Boroughmuir will obviously their last hits just immediately before kick-off. The players will probably be happy that the sun, well, it's clouded over a little, it's still very warm, but it was almost too warm for the players' liking earlier, I suspect, Dale.
Yeah, but you know, it's great, and the park here is obviously the artificial surface. It's just a catalyst for what should be a nice open game of rugby. It'll really, you know, highlight the players' skill set. This is a phenomenal level of rugby, you know, the semi-professional level that we've got in Scotland. So, you know, this is a great arena to go and play it and show what these players are made of.
So out come the visitors, led by captain Scott Robson. See Josh King, big second row in there, formerly of Biggar. Just getting the last 2 or 3 hits before kick-off. As I say, several changes in that Boroughmuir Bears side, but they still look strong. They had that win against Ayrshire Bulls, came off the back of a thumping by Glasgow Warriors A, but managed to turn it around in week 3, and then lost to Heriots, and then very narrowly against Watsonians. So they, although it's on Southern Knights soil, I imagine that the Bears will be slight favourites here today, Dale.
I think it's quite difficult to call, especially looking at the two teams. The games that I've watched with Knights in, I feel that they have competed really well, but perhaps at times just been, you know, perhaps out-muscled and outsmarted. There's that little rawness to the Southern Knights, and sometimes it just takes that to click. So, you know, this is a good hit out for both teams because they're both vulnerable. You know, and that's the sort of game that you want to see. There's still a lot to play for these two sides. So, you know, I think it's probably too close to call.
Both teams out on the pitch. Southern Knights just in their huddle before kick-off. Referee waiting patiently in the middle. This afternoon is Michael Todd. I think he's still associated with the Melrose club here, so he's essentially on home soil. He's assisted this afternoon by Ross Maben and David Chang Leng. And it will be Boroughmuir Bears and Tom Quinlan to get the match underway here at the Greenyards, and can't be taken cleanly by Jamie Campbell. So it's early Boroughmuir possession just outside the Southern Knights 22. Brodie Young out to Quinlan. Just drops that one off to Marcus Goodwin in the midfield. Boroughmuir Bears will look to play quickly. Well out the back from Robson to Quinlan. And get it into the wide channels with Adam Scott. Southern Knights defence holding firm, coming up quickly. Once again, the go-to man there is Marcus Goodwin. He's caught a little behind the gain line. Good leg drive, makes another metre or two. Back to Quinlan again. Across to McGinley then. Out the back, and now there's space. And away goes Robson. He's got men with him. He's got Jenkins there, who's dragged down just 5 metres short. Aidan Cross makes the tackle. The Knights try to reorganise their defence quickly. The Bears will feel they should have scored there. Back they come to the blind side, and Kieran Westlake Slow ball here, and the referee says the Knights not rolling away. Penalty Boroughmuir.
Far too easy for Boroughmuir there, just able to stretch from the stand side here at the Greenyards, really get the ball across quickly and pick the pockets. Defensively, Southern Knights, you mentioned, are really pushing up, but what that's happening is they're kind of filtering into midfield, which is allowing a lot of space on the flanks, just not able to execute. But what a great challenge there from Aidan Cross, brilliant cover defence, but the pressure is still on here.
Arthur Allen to throw into the Bears line out. Taken by McConnell in the middle, fed back to McGinley, and then to Arthur Allen, and they break away, heading towards that try line. And the Knights have brought it to halt, but no, over it goes. Boroughmuir Bears over for the opening try, inside 2 minutes, and it's Arthur Allen, the try scorer.
Yeah, almost far too easy. It was well orchestrated, that maul, just able to hit their target, bring it down, very cohesive. And when that maul started to crane towards that right hand side, all the Southern Knights players started to lose their footing, bundled on top of each other, which gave them that momentum. And you can see here, just when it gets a little bit closer to that line, all the players, you know, they've managed to work their way back towards the back of that maul to try and defend it, but just a little too late from the Southern Knights there. But you think about that, a minute and a half in, it all comes back to that kickoff. The kickoff was on the money, just in the wrong position there. It's flat back, Boroughmuir ball, and it's been persistent pressure for the last minute and a half.
So the muscle from the Bears pack, scoring in the first 90 seconds. Tom Quinlan tasked with adding the extras. 16 metres or so in from the touchline. And he curls that one round nicely. Up go the flags. And it's Southern Knights 0, Boroughmuir Bears 7.
Yeah, that'll just be the exact start that Boroughmuir Bears would have wanted, to get off the bus and try and strike a blow early, and they've done just that. But it's all came from a little bit of naivety and a little bit of carelessness from the Southern Knights, just inviting that pressure from Boroughmuir Bears.
So Callum Grieve sends the restart long into the Bears 22. To just create a better angle for the kick. Arthur Allen, the try scorer. Ball carrier there. Set up with Quinlan directly behind Villanelle. In fact, Young will take on kicking duties himself, and that finds its way into touch. About 5 metres on the Boroughmuir side of halfway.
Yeah, we've been a few minutes into the game, and we've seen, you know, how to deal with a kickoff and how not to deal with a kickoff. And Boroughmuir Bears doing brilliantly there, just pinged into their 22, secure the ball, set up the platform, come round the corner again, and give their 9 and 10 a nice, you know, nice platforms to kick off. And they've certainly got options there as well.
So stolen by the Knights. Allen unable to find his man. Davidson uses his forwards. Now out it goes to Grieve. Drops the ball off there to Gary Young. Crashes into contact. And now they go to the skies. That one perhaps a little long for the chase. Not taken cleanly by Adam Scott at the back. It's the back pedal that managed to get a good kick away. That won't go into touch. Taken by Callum Grieve again. He chips that one over the top. Taken on the full by Adam Scott. And up it goes again from Brodie Young. Aidan Cross this time. Back for the Southern Knights. Finds Finn Douglas over in the other wing, who again puts boot to ball. And a little bit of confusion there between the two Boroughmuir Bears players, but they managed to get a kick away. Is that going to go too far? That could well go dead. It's just bounced kindly for Boroughmuir, stops a metre or two short there, and that'll be touchdown for a goal line dropout.
Yeah, good territorial gain for Boroughmuir Bears though, because when Southern Knights are trying to use the kicking game to get in behind, you know, all of a sudden they were just on about the halfway line, and now Boroughmuir Bears are going to get the ball back, you know, deep inside the Southern Knights half. But Southern Knights do look like a good team with the ball in hand. They just, you know, at times teams suffocate them, and they've been able to keep the ball, and you feel that the Boroughmuir Bears are doing that here.
So Grieve sends that to his opposite number, Tom Quinlan. And then Westlake carries back over halfway, tackled by Russell Anderson, the Knights captain. And that can't be taken cleanly by Marcus Goodwin. Knock on again, just the pressure, maybe had half an eye on the on-rushing Southern Knights defence. Forced the knock on, scrum down, Knights ball.
Yeah, at this stage of the game, the Knights are just needing to get a little bit of that luck, a little bit of the pressure off them, because Boroughmuir Bears up until this point have looked, really, really accurate in everything that they've done. So Goodwin just creeping into an unforced error there, but as you say, a little bit of that is keeping an eye on the defence, because they do rush up at such a pace. A part of the Knights game is a little bit, putting a lot of pressure on in defence initially. So Goodwin just forced into a little faux pas there.
Penalty awarded to Knights from the scrum, and away goes Davidson. Makes his way 10 metres or so upfield. Good break by the scrum half. Dan Gamble goes in to play scrum half out to Jamie Campbell. And the Knights now making their way up towards the Boroughmuir Bears 22. Out the back to the centres. Through goes Adam Hall. Russell Anderson inside the 22 for the first time in the game, the Southern Knights. 7 or 8 metres away, out to the forwards again, and Dan Gamble. A quick ball for the Knights. Out into the midfield again. Good tackle by Boroughmuir Bears, and away they go to the left once more. Just dragged down by the bootlaces there. 5 metres away from the line. There's space out there on the wide for Finn Douglas. The left winger goes over for the Southern Knights. Good ball retention in the 22, and they made it count as they got the ball out to space. Finn Douglas, the left wing, goes over for the Knights' first try of the game.
Yeah, Callum Grieve was at the centre of pretty much every single phase there. Just being able to get himself in the right position, always had options, and you can see here when the ball eventually came to him, he's just hitting that tight runner, that great line that was offered on a few times. That occasion it was Gary Young. Gets round again and is able just to spill that ball over the top to find Finn Douglas, who was able just to squeeze in. A bit of pressure from Boroughmuir Bears, but just able to squeeze in the corner. But again, a few phases further back from that, Russell Anderson getting himself in a great position, because as the Southern Knights burst through, he was just kind of a lazy runner on the shoulder, got in behind, allowing the momentum to keep going, and allows them just a bit further in behind, so Boroughmuir Bears have to track back a little bit further. Good try.
First visit to the 22, and they come away with points, 5 so far. Can they add the extras? Callum Grieve from the stand side of the pitch, as wide as it could be. Just goes past the left upright. So with just over 9 minutes played here at the Greenyards, the Knights are back in it. It's Southern Knights 5, Boroughmuir Bears 7.
Yeah, there's a good response from the Southern Knights to Boroughmuir Bears. It all comes back to that knock on, being able to build a bit of momentum from that phase of play. And all of a sudden they're able to do just this. Good clear out, getting the ball into the Nine's hands, and then being able to squeeze it in the corner and get the ball to the danger men. It's Finn Douglas and Aidan Cross are great wingers. Good reply from the Southern Knights.
It's the Knights in possession from the restart, taken again by Jamie Campbell. Let's look at take another phase. Rudy Brown takes that one into contact. And now Callum Davidson sets up for the kick. Just threading it back through 2 or 3 players' legs. Didn't catch that one as he intended. That'll stay in the field of play. Joe Jenkins under it, but Aidan Cross taps it back all the way back into his 22. Rudy Brown has to go back and tidy that one up for the Southern Knights. Hands in from the Bears. That was King trying to steal it for the visitors. The Southern Knights will have to exit again from another 5 metres back towards their goal line. Callum Davidson once more. Fisher just jumps the gun a little to try and charge that one down. Not taken cleanly by Westlake on his own 10 metre line, but no knock on. Throws it out to Adam Scott a little bit untidily. Eventually makes its way across to that stand side. That's a high tackle, but play on, referee playing an advantage. Boroughmuir Bears up over halfway, keeping the ball alive. Brody Young, and then picked up by Westlake, tries to offload, away goes Young again. He's got open space in front of him. I don't think Melville will get there. The scrum half will score, and over goes Young for his side's second try. Great pace by the Boroughmuir Bears halfback. And with only 11 minutes played here, have already been treated to 3 tries.
Yeah, both teams have been known to have leaky defences so far this season. In the opening 10 minutes, we've certainly been treated to a few good tries, but that was perhaps the pick of the bunch so far. And great work just from those close quarters just before that highlight was shown. It was the awareness at that ruck, just to be able to see the gap, keep the ball alive. But Boroughmuir Bears were doing that on a few occasions, looking to just offload out of contact, keep the momentum in that passage of play. But great pace as well from Brodie Young, showing a clean pair of heels to Ollie Melville at fullback, because he's no slouch. But it was great interlinking play from Boroughmuir Bears.
Altogether too much space in that Knights defence, but took advantage of it to the full, did Brodie Young. And it's his halfback partner Tom Quinlan, Newcastle University players. Quinlan from an almost identical spot where he kicked his first conversion, and that's an almost identical kick, just curls round between the posts, and Boroughmuir now re-establish themselves a 9-point advantage.
Yeah, and again a good response from the pressure that the Southern Knights were able to provide. But it's this passage of play here, just the awareness there for Westlake, just able to just take that guard out of the position and squeeze that defence. It was the number 8 there, he's completely made that gap, and the 9's got the hard job of being able to finish it at great pace.
Westlake again taking that from the restart, his first start of this sprint series. He's shown up well at number 8 so far.
One thing that struck me about Westlake so far is at pitch side here, you can hear his communication when he's back in the pocket. You know, he's communicating to the referee, the back 3 as well. So, you know, in terms of his impact in the first kind of 10-15 minutes here, he's been really positive for the Boroughmuir Bears.
Will Hopes, this time the target in the line out, sacked quickly by Boroughmuir Bears. Again, they'll just carry through the forwards, and then back it comes to Grieve, spots space over on the far side. Jenkins should take that one, calls for the mark, dealt with well by the Boroughmuir Bears left wing.
Good chance to go for the free ball there from the Knights, just the opportunity to try and bring Cross into it, and you know, it's a roll of the dice for the Southern Knights there because they had the advantage. I think we know what's going to be coming next, because they'll be looking just to nudge us to the corner and try and get the heavies in a good position and charge towards that Boroughmuir Bears line and do exactly what Boroughmuir Bears did to the Southern Knights in the opening couple of minutes.
Well, the Southern Knights scored a fantastic try last weekend up at Bridgehawk against Stirling Wolves. From further out than this, once they got them all set, very effective. So let's see what they can do from here. About 10 or 11 metres out from the Bears try line. Russell Anderson gets his instructions. Standard 6+1 line out that everybody goes for from here, taken again by Hopes and fed back to Russell Anderson. Initially good work by Boroughmuir Bears, but now the Southern Knights are set, inching forward, starting to gather momentum. Still in the possession of Russell Anderson. Over he goes. Well, in fact, the referee was playing an advantage, and no hesitation there, and going underneath the sticks towards the penalty try to the Southern Knights.
Yeah, as easy as you like there for the Knights. You can see, you were explaining before about the, you know, in terms of, there's a yellow card there as well being flashed. Just trying to catch the player who's just exiting stage left, because they're taking the place on the replacements bench just now. I think it's Arthur Allen's been sin-binned for the infringement at the Mall. But again, Russell Anderson is just a passenger there at the back, being driven towards the line. And it's a really effective driving maul there from the Southern Knights, something that they certainly keep up their sleeve. It's a great exponent of the Greenyards, being able to flex their muscles up front and nudge their opponents over the line. And I think Michael Todd only had one option there from that passage of play, was toward the penalty try.
No conversion necessary from the penalty try. It's the straight 7 points. Not taken cleanly by the Southern Knights from the restart. Taken into contact by Alan Ferry. The Bears down to 14 men here. The Southern Knights should have some space. Can they find it over on that far side? Arthur Allen the Bears hooker, the man to be shown the yellow card, tried to drag them all down. Might have been better just leaving it, because Southern Knights were going to score, there was no doubt about it. And just rub salt in the wound when you lose a man to the bin. But penalty awarded here to Boroughmuir Bears on the Southern Knights 22, and they've opted to kick for posts.
Yeah, I was wondering what they were going to go for here, because it's obviously an attractive position to nudge it into the corner, but their hooker has been sin binned. Now we've obviously seen it in the Six Nations, we've seen it earlier on in the season as well. It just one of the Knights players had to revert to throwing in. You know, one of their props had to throw in at the line out. So, you know, there are players on the pitch that are able to, duplicate their skills and abilities on the pitch. But obviously, Boroughmuir Bears feel this is a tight game, a chance to go for an additional 3 points and eat the clock as well, and get their player back on the pitch.
Exactly right. They'll just take as long as they possibly can over this kick. Tom Quinlan, 2 successful conversion attempts already. Then Arthur Allen's try and Brodie Young's effort. And you add 3 points here. It's time over this. 15 metres, or in fact 10 in perhaps from that touchline. On the stand side, but not quite in his radar set from there. Difficult side for the right-footed kicker.
Especially with his kicking style as well. He's got a real curl on his kick when it comes off that right boot, so it's probably worse for him because of his kicking style, but he just glanced in front of the posts.
Yes, you could see that from his 2 conversions earlier, the way he curled them round between the posts. So unsuccessful with the penalty attempts, the 22 drop out. And that's taken by Quinlan just in his own 10-metre line. Let's play back up over halfway. And then in comes Brodie Young. He's calling the forwards round the corner. Looks like Josh King will be the ball carrier this time. He's dealt with well by the Southern Knights defence. And then through the middle they come, and they catch scrum half Brodie Young there. Boroughmuir Bears losing ground rapidly here. The referee though says high tackle, and Southern Knights rather let Boroughmuir Bears off the hook there because they were all over them in defence.
Yeah, the Knights, I do feel something that's really improved in their game in this sprint series has been their defence, but you know, at times it's their downfall as well, because they're so focused and so committed to the tackle, you know, doubling up in tackles as well in those tight quarters, that sometimes they're a little bit more exposed out wide. But you can just see there the pressure coming on, but they just infringe and then allow Boroughmuir Bears off the hook to kick downfield. I think this is perhaps where they're going to be having a conversation about the hooker.
A lengthy conversation, it would seem, deciding who can throw in. Marcus Goodwin lurking across to the side, just hoping that nobody asks him to throw in. I think it's going to be Luca Alessandri, is it, perhaps?
I think they've maybe brought Jerry Blythe Lafferty off of the bench. It looks like it's perhaps...
They have indeed.
It's perhaps him who's just on the touchline there. So they've had to do a little reshuffle to accommodate a hooker.
So one youngster to another, Jerry Blythe Lafferty finds Liam McConnell in the line out. However, that knock on as they tried to pass it to Blythe Lafferty at the back. It was scrum down to Southern Knights, and you could hear from the cheers just what that means to them.
Yeah, there's been a couple of handling errors in there from Boroughmuir Bears in positions that they perhaps, you know, should have had secure balls. Got that Goodwin knock on, which eventually led to the Knights try. A good area there to bring the ball down and start feeding it back through that maul. And you know, especially today, it's a really dry day. Just a little bit of pressure coming on from the Knights is perhaps forcing that. But there's going to be handling errors the way that Bears play. They like to keep the ball alive, they like to offload out the tackle, so the more you do it, the more chance you've got of knocking on. But that's perhaps something they will kick themselves for, because it's a careless situation to be in.
Two in the backfield here for Boroughmuir Bears, and Joe Jenkins just hedging his bets, expecting the kick, but free ball here for Southern Knights. There's a great scrum. Playing advantage here, the referee. Melville can't take that one. Pass just down at his bootlaces. There's a hint of space there. He had Finn Douglas with him. The referee will go back to the penalty from a very powerful Southern Knights scrum.
Yeah, good defence as well. Robson got across the park really well to make that tackle, because you could see the Knights just want to get the width quickly. They were missing out the inside centre, trying to get it into the hands of the wider channels like the Melville and Cross. And Robson covered the pitch brilliantly to get across and just make that tackle and stopped any momentum.
Well, that's a great kick there. He goes into touch, 4 or 5 metres inside the Boroughmuir Bears 22. And well, we've already seen the power of the Southern Knights pack from the line-out maul. Can they replicate their last try, which in the end was a penalty try, as it looked like Russell Anderson would go over. Again, the 6+1 line-out with Rudy Brown standing off there as the +1. Will Hopes once again the target. So the first part of the equation completed, and the ball now in the hands of Russell Anderson. They get that maul just inching forward, which is what happened last time. Then it started to gather momentum. Now they go forward, still 10 metres or so away, but picking up pace here. Boroughmuir Bears commit more players to it, but still going forward towards that Bear try line. This will be very difficult to stop. Very well organised in this area of the game, the Southern Knights. Now it comes to halt, so they'll have to play away out to Zach Smith. Just takes that into contact, spins his way out of the first tackle. So 5 metres out from the line. Rudy Brown now. Russell Anderson goes in to help with him. McConnell comes in, gets hands on that, and the referee awards the penalty. The Bears blindside, still only 18 years old, birthday in 4 days' time, rescues his side there.
He's a brilliant player. What I've seen him in the Super Series so far, he's young, as you say, but the maturity of his play, he's in that congested area at that maul, fighting for his team's cause to try and stop the onslaught from the driving maul, but works himself round, and the body position he got himself into in that jackal was unbelievable. He wasn't going to be stopped. You could see Rudy Brown trying to keep his body on the ball for as long as possible, waiting for the support to arrive, but McConnell was all over that.
Well, it looked like the Southern Knights were going in for another try from the line out for all money, but somehow Boroughmuir Bears stopped them 3 or 4 metres away from the line. The referee asked them to play it away, and then the penalty under the shadow of the posts allows them to kick to touch. And then McConnell once again the target for Jerry Blythe Lafferty. Well, for the next few minutes in the absence of starting hooker Arthur Allen, still in the sin bin. Brodie Young just picking his moment here and sends that as high as he can, chased by Joe Jenkins, and he just about beats Ollie Melville to it. Comes back, little scrappy, comes back on the Boroughmuir side. Well, that's been snaffled now by Southern Knights, and Alan Ferry takes off with it, goes through the first tackle. Strong carry from the Knights open side flanker, in behind the forwards to Grieve, and again he's got numbers, just throws the ball straight out to left wing. Finn Douglas, first try scorer. He's tackled just outside the Bears 22, but penalty once more, this time for not releasing, and that will allow the Knights presumably to just put this ball in the corner and set themselves up from the line out again.
Yeah, good breakaway from Ferry, carrying the ball, physical. He's a really physical ball carrier, but he was able to just carry the ball, and then he almost got slightly isolated, but the cavalry did arrive, cleared out. 3-4 guys got across that to clear out, get the ball there and present it back, for Callum Davidson to try and use, and he tried to get a bit of width on it in behind Russell Anderson, who was coming tight. So you can see that there's lots of options for Southern Knights, but there is the times where that could go the other way. We've seen it just underneath the posts where McConnell gets over the ball, but it worked there, just able to get themselves in a good position, and now they can kick downfield and again look to utilise that driving maul.
A little break in play for some treatment to Marcus Goodwin, who returns to the squad today at tight head. Martin McGinley, starting prop on the bench today, a strong looking bench for Boroughmuir. Tristan Andrews, Rory Swan, scrum half Callum Ram, who we will see at fullback at some point, no doubt. But back to the action, and Russell Anderson with ball in hand into this line out. Will Hopes has been the target in the last 2 occasions. We've also got Jamie Campbell, and in fact Campbell, the man who takes it this time. They just try to break round the back, and they don't find a lot of resistance there. Galloping towards that try line, it goes down just short. Metre or so away, Russell Anderson just steps forward, asks for the ball. The captain just steps off his left foot but can't quite get himself to the try line. It's a huge hit there in defence. Boroughmuir Bears defending for their lives here. Pick and go again from the Knights referee, playing an advantage, and they go to the left. But they won't need that penalty advantage because over goes Callum Davidson, the scrum half. Anything that Brodie Young can do, he can do too. And that's the score which gets the Southern Knights noses in front for the first time in this game.
Yeah, again, great play from the line out, something a little bit different this time because they brought it down and moved the target, trying to find a weaker pocket, but eventually it ends up being that way. Boroughmuir Bears were able to get back and recycle themselves in defence, start to cover that line, but eventually there was again options there for the Southern Knights. They're looking left, they're looking right, they've got runners there, they've got options out the back. The Boroughmuir Bears defence committed, which just opened that little gap for Davidson just to weave his way in and dive over the line. So first time in the game, Knights ahead, but they've grown into this game over the last this first quarter.
Certainly a deserved lead, you would have to say, for the home side. Still looking for the first win of the season. I feel this is perhaps the best chance. The side just above them in the table on home soil. And Callum Grieve adds the extras. With about 27 minutes played here at the Greenyards, it's Southern Knights 19, Boroughmuir Bears 14.
Yeah, good response from the Knights. Obviously, we're going behind in the opening couple of minutes, but they've certainly grown into this game. But that's all off the back of a really relentless pressure from the forwards, and the Boroughmuir Bears finding it hard to live with. Although in this try here, it was eventually a back that scored, but it's the hard work from the forwards which helped put that platform on.
Great effort by Joe Jenkins, a former Southern Knight. Australian, has played sevens for Wales. Almost got hands on that, went loose, and through came Josh King, but it bounced nicely for the Southern Knights. And Davidson, the try scorer, doesn't get a huge amount of distance on his kick, but finds its way safely into touch just outside the 22. Arthur Allen, the hooker, back off the naughty step, and will throw into this line out.
Yeah, that's exactly what you want to do from a restart. Kick it deep or kick it long, put a bit of pressure on and try and get a territorial gain, and allows Boroughmuir Bears to try and build a platform, build a little bit of momentum back in this game, because they looked like they had a bit of control and have slightly lost that.
Go for a 5+1 line out taken by Josh King. Round comes Allen, the hooker. The New Zealander gets hands on that. He's played in the back row this season for the Bears as well. Solid Knights defence. That maul, so it looks like Bears will have to play away through Brodie Young out to Robson. He just goes himself, he is driven backwards in a two-man tackle. Callum Grieve involved in that one. Still with the Bears as Fisher looked to tip that on, instead just sticks the head down and carries into contact. Quinlan out the back to Joe Jenkins, often pops up off his left wing over on the right, able to find space. Back it comes to McConnell. Sticks that big right hand out to fend off the Knights tackler. Goes side to side. Up comes that defence, flying up in the face of Jack Fisher again. I've lost an awful lot of ground here, Boroughmuir Bears, so they instead go to the skies. Taken well by Adam Hall. The Knights inside centre. They look to play away here. The Bears' defence looked a little disorganised. They had front row forwards out in the back line, but the Knights decided instead to kick it, and they find Adam Scott at the back. Sends that one diagonally across field. Back to Jenkins. Taken at the back by Grieve on his own 22. Spirals that one downfield. That one's been knocked on, so the Southern Knights certainly win that kicking duel.
Yeah, I was actually relieved that something entertaining happened in that last minute, because it looked like they were cancelling each other out, but eventually that spiral, as soon as you seen it leave the boot of Grieve, you thought that was going to be an awkward one to try and field, and it proved so, because it started to dip just at the wrong time, and when you're trying to stoop so low and gather a ball at pace, it's not easy. And it's just been fumbled, and it's again a territorial gain for the Southern Knights, and you can see they celebrated it like it was a try, but it was rightfully so.
good attacking scrum here for the Southern Knights. We're into the last 15 minutes or so of this half. Callum Grieve has Finn Douglas lurking behind him. Good scrum again from the Southern Knights, seem to have dominance there. However, that is in the possession of Boroughmuir Bears. Liam McConnell acts as scrum half. After Goodwin. A bit of confusion it seemed at the back, but Brodie Young will send that one long. Timed well by Ollie Melville. He was taken in the air. That was a fairly clear penalty. We'll perhaps see that on the replay, but Ollie Melville timed his run and jump nicely. He wasn't allowed to land again before he was hit by the Boroughmuir Bears chasers. So another penalty to the Southern Knights, and all that does is again allow them the opportunity to send this ball into the Bears 22.
Yeah, he jumped early, which meant that I think it was Mason Cullen who was looking to get underneath that, and you can see just as Ollie Melville jumps, Mason Cullen ducks, and it's just because Melville committed himself that early. And yeah, I think that Mason Cullen was more trying to protect him slightly, and it just happened that he rolled over. No ill effects after. Melville's back up, and Southern Knights have kicked themselves back into the Boroughmuir Bears 22.
Just inside that 22. Imagine a look to get the drive set up again. Will Hopes takes the ball, no, they play away from it. Taken into contact by Adam Hall. Good strong run by the inside centre. Needs him to work hard to secure that one at the breakdown. And again come the hands from Boroughmuir Bears. Pick and go by Rudy Brown. As Young tried to strip that one in the tackle. Campbell just waiting, but it goes behind the forwards. And then to Finn Douglas, pops up off his left wing. Good footwork. Taken by Joe Jenkins. Back they go to the left. And again, Jamie Campbell offering himself as a ball carrier. Grieve in through the forwards to Alan Ferry. Out comes the hand and the big fend. Again having to work hard at the breakdown, and that time just a little slow. Boroughmuir Bears penalty.
Yeah, it was good work initially from the Southern Knights, being able to retain the ball, get it into some good positions, ask questions in the Boroughmuir Bears defence, but you know they were not really looking like they were going to break through them. Even players like Ferry finding it difficult to win the physical battle. But again, Boroughmuir Bears strong over that ball, and they're getting a chance to jackal for the ball. You know, the Southern Knights at times, because they commit so physically to the contact, they're sometimes isolating themselves and get themselves on the wrong side, which means that Boroughmuir Bears have got a clean platform to try and strip it back.
On the day, the Bears one of the best sides in the competition at the breakdown defensively. It's twice they've rescued themselves with steals in their 22. McConnell with the earlier one under the posts. Boroughmuir Bears now from the line out, working their way towards their own 10-metre line. Stand side of the pitch. And up it goes from Brodie Young. Good chase. Nobody can take it cleanly. Bounces up for Callum Grieve. Southern Knights fly half. He takes it into contact on the Bears 10-metre line. Rudy Brown steps back inside. Tackled by Arthur Allen. Through again comes McGinley this time. Again, every breakdown hands coming in from Boroughmuir Bears, putting pressure on and driving the Knights back, so Callum Grieve doesn't have many other options than to send it long. Taken well by Adam Scott. And sees space in behind, bounces up nicely for Grieve. He just goes for height on that one. Difficult one to take, but dealt with well by Quinlan, who evades the first tackler, then absolutely hammered by the second, just on his side of halfway. Connell did well to take that one. Brodie Young to Westlake, and out the back to Joe Jenkins. Aidan Cross with the tackle. Alex Tom doing well to offload the ball back to Jenkins. They're still on their own 10-metre line. And out to Fisher. Puts his way forward. Here comes Luca Alessandri. Westlake looking for this one. Feels like there's numbers on this touchline. Is it to McGinley? Finding it very hard to go forward against this Southern Knights defence. Still managing to go forward. Closing 9 minutes or so of this first half. Up it goes from Brodie Young. Taken well by Ollie Melville. He's caught by Scott Robson. Offloads to Aidan Cross. Skips his way past one tackler. Can't get away from the tackle of Allen. There could be space down the stand side touchline. Rudy Brown decides to take that one into contact, dealt with by Alex Tom. Alan Ferry had to stoop for that one, couldn't take it cleanly. The referee playing an advantage. Scrum down, Boroughmuir Bears ball.
Yeah, just I kind of entered a phase of this game where both teams are really cancelling each other out. It feels like they've given a lot to the first half hour or so of this game, and they've sapped of energy slightly because, you know, the defences are on top now. Before it was, you know, both teams are attacking really well and asking questions. But this last kind of 5 minutes or so, there's been a kicking battle. It's been a bit more attritional, which you expect between these two teams. Up front, they're really, you know, really talented. And in the backs they do have personnel that can open the park, but they're still having to feel each other out to see where these gaps are going to appear.
It's been an entertaining first half though, as you alluded to at the start of the match. Conditions really couldn't be any better. The artificial surface here, barely a breath of wind. It really is an afternoon or an evening for running rugby.
I was nervous at the start when I said it was going to be close and Boroughmuir scored after 2 minutes, but I'm glad the scoreline now reflects that again.
I think I said Boroughmuir Bears were maybe slight favourites. I caveated it with slight. It's still very much anybody's game, this long way to go. They've certainly both come here today to play rugby. 2 tries for Boroughmuir Bears, 3 for the Knights. Chance here for the Bears after some running repairs to one of their front row players. Scrum on halfway, 15 metres in from the stand side touchline. Brodie Young, one of the try scorers. Feet of Westlake. Back to Quinlan. Quickly they will miss pass it outside centre. A lovely line there by Adam Scott. Goes straight through the defence. Goes, well, almost was round Adam Hall there. Just dragged down by one boot. Westlake tripped up as there was half a gap in front of him. Young to Quinlan. Cuts back inside. Tackled by Rudy Brown. There's numbers on this touchline. Referee playing an advantage. That ball stripped in the tackle by Callum Greaves. A good defence by the Knights fly half, but they were up offside. Another Bears penalty. And they will, I am sure, stick this one in the corner.
Yeah, good first phase move from Boroughmuir Bears, just able to find that hole in defence and feed the seed and put the man through. And great defence again. Ollie Melville, perhaps because there was only a two-man filter coming through for Boroughmuir Bears, perhaps they didn't have any options. It made the tackle slightly easier because he was committed to it, but he still had to execute it. Really good defence. And again, Boroughmuir Bears just not able to capitalise when they're in behind. And now they get the chance, stab it to the corner and put the pressure on again.
Yes, they'll feel that they should have finished that one really when Scott went through. Open space, he had support with him. Credit to the Knights defence for closing that one down. Their work cut out here. Arthur Allen can find his man in this line out. He's got McConnell. Instead goes to Fisher in the middle. Back to McGinley.
5 out, 5.
And then to Allen. As they work their way towards the try line. The Knights bring that one to a stop, but now they break away to the right. Now they're going towards that try line. Arthur Allen still in possession. The referee playing advantage. It goes down just short of the Knights try line. Free ball here. Robson goes over the top of one man, but dragged down by Alan Ferry. It's another advantage, not rolling away this time at the breakdown. Tackle by Rudy Brown, very close to the try line. Arthur Allen stopped just short again. King could well be over. The referee says still short. So play away again through Brodie Young. Jack Fisher spins his way into contact there, ends up backwards. Could be space out wide now. Scott He drops that ball. Scott going very close. Position initially came really from the break of Scott back on halfway. Loses the ball in contact. Boroughmuir Bears will have another go.
Yeah, good attacking play from Boroughmuir Bears. They were persistent, they were consistent coming around the corner as well. But just when they try and get it in the wider channel, just an innocuous little tackle just strips the ball, but it'll just be press the reset button and go again.
4 minutes to half time, still the Knights with that 5 points advantage. Bears will be looking to go in ahead at half time. This time it's McConnell, same setup, but they go to the man in front. Bears look well set here, galloping towards the try line. Over they go, and Arthur Allen with his second try of the match. And it's 19 apiece.
Very similar to that first try that he scored to open proceedings in the game. The maul was formed and driven in exactly the same fashion, brought down, well gathered by McConnell, and then you can see it starts to twist towards the right hand side again. So the Southern Knights players having to filter round, keep coming round to try and stop that, that momentum, and then eventually it yields and the left hand side opens up and it allows Arthur Allen perhaps an easier crack at the line this time than he did in the opening exchanges.
So both sides very well organised with their line out mauls. 3 for the Bears. This could be the last kick of the game, of the half, I should say. Apologies. And Quinlan has been accurate from this side. Missed a penalty earlier from the other side. He's curled 2 conversions round from almost identical position. Can he put Boroughmuir Bears into the lead at half time? He certainly can. Nibbles that one round once more as the referee Michael Todd blows for half time. It's the Southern Knights 19, Boroughmuir Bears 21.
Yeah, perhaps it's a fair scoreline on the balance of play. Boroughmuir Bears came out in brilliant fashion. The Southern Knights perhaps won the middle section of the first half, and then the Bears come back into it at the end. So, in terms of the balance of play, I would say we knew it was going to be tight at half time, but it's certainly shaped up well for an entertaining next 40 minutes, because they're still sizing each other up for next week as well.
Yes, these two, as we said earlier, they'll go head to head again up in Edinburgh. 5th against 6th playoffs. Here's the first try. Arthur Allen going over. He wasn't even 2 minutes old from the line out drive.
Yeah, that first try that Arthur Allen scored, we've seen it at the end of the half. They've been perfectly bookended actually, because we've seen it at the end of the half as well. But it's been a game, the first 40 minutes that the forwards have really dominated, and then after that try the Southern Knights came back in and replied.
Yes, they recognised that the space was out wide. Ben Douglas lucking on the left wing. Still had a bit of work to do. Well to stay in the field of play as he went over. Conversion was missed at that point. Boroughmuir Bears led 7 points to 5. And then they scored their second try. Brodie Young breaking through there and showing a clean pair of heels to the defence, chased by Ollie Melville, who didn't quite have the gas to get there. Great work by the Bears halfback.
Yeah, it was Westlake makes that. He can, when the ruck's formed there, McConnell sets up the platform and Westlake grabs the ball, draws that guard in, just a nice little tip on, and any little scrum half with their wits about them will be sniffing at that sort of opportunity. And it was great work from Young just to spot that opportunity and go in for a try.
Yes, Westlake shown up well. Number 8 for Boroughmuir Bears. The rider there for Brodie Young. Conversion by Quinlan was successful, so Bears leading 14 points to 5. Then Russell Anderson, you see, with ball in hand as that Southern Knights maul drove towards the line, and it was dragged down by Arthur Allen, so he was shown a yellow card, and the referee under the post for penalty try. And then the Southern Knights got their noses in front. Short range try by Callum Davidson, the scrum half, so both scrum halves scoring in that first half. And Grieve with the conversion, so Knights leading by 5 points. Boroughmuir Bears with the last word of that first half. Arthur Allen with his second, as Dale said, from an almost identical position to the first.
Yeah, I think, and that probably summarises, the first half perfectly. The two scrum halves scoring off a great work from the forwards, and then all the other tries have been really forward orientated. They've been driving mauls, they've been persistent pressure from the big burly boys up front. So, Finn Douglas's try as well, that was from relentless pressure from the forwards. So the forwards are executing their game plan brilliantly on both sides, but I think it's just going to be a matter of which backs can show up the best in the second half. It's slightly worrying for the Southern Knights. They've only got two backs on the bench, but in terms of the second half, it's shaping up nicely.
So half time then here at the Greenyards, our final league game in this year's Sprint Series. Still got next weekend's playoff matches to come, and it's a tight one. Boroughmuir Bears with that slender 2 points advantage. Southern Knights 19, Boroughmuir Bears 21. Welcome back to the Greenyards. We're just waiting on the Southern Knights coming back out. Boroughmuir Bears already back on the pitch. Looking forward to the second half. Final 40 minutes of league action in this year's Sprint Series. Looking forward to the playoff games next weekend. Certainly an entertaining first half, Dale, with the visitors holding just that narrow 2 points advantage at the break.
Yeah, just able to squeeze back into the lead at the end of the first half. And as we said at the end of the first half, when we were running through all the tries, it was very forward orientated. You know, a couple of heavy hitters on both sides, being able to utilise their drive and maul. So, you know, a lot of that comes into playing a bit of smart rugby as well. They've both got strengths in their sides. It's being able to play in the right areas, and I'm sure, you know, Graham Shield and Alan Tate would have been telling their sides just that at half time. You know, get us into good positions that we can put pressure on the opposition, and that's exactly what they'll be looking to do in the second half. As Russell Anderson now just leads the Knights on, ready to get the second half underway.
Just looking to see if there have been any changes made. I don't see any new faces in that Boroughmuir Bears side. Sam Derrick on for the Southern Knights. In fact, is it Rory Brand?
I think both of them are on. I see Sam Derrick with number 23, Rory Brand, and number 21 as well. So a couple of replacements for the Knights at half time.
Sam Derrick, coming as a forward, was covering the backs today. So backline players with all their injuries in the Southern Knights. It's Callum Grieve who gets us underway in the second half. Tackle made by Will Hopes in the chase. Young is taking his time over this one. Gets it over the charging player, and Rory Brand, former Watsonian with Southern Knights. For the second half, scrum half. And in goes Brandon. Just to thread the ball through between forwards. Away comes Grieve. Ollie Melville, who's booked the ball there. Taken well at the back there by Tom Quinlan. Your Bears back just about where they started. To Fisher. Roddy Young will kick. It's almost like Groundhog Day over the top again of Gary Young. Didn't quite get the same distance that time. Rory Brand couldn't take it. Ollie Melville does. Brand out to Ferry. There could be space over on the far side. Grieve to Adam Hall. Decides to just straighten into contact. Next inside centre. Ferry again waiting. His first receiver then out the back to Grieve, and there's space down this touchline if they can get it there. Away goes Finn Douglas. It's a good tackle there by his opposite number, Mason Cullen. Southern Knights now, and Ferry just outside the Bears 22. Brand again to Grieve, just drops the ball off there to Gamble. In fact, it was Dobie. He's lost that ball in the contact. Your Bears survive again. The Knights keep their hands off that. They'll be frustrated having lost the ball, having got themselves into the Boroughmuir Bears 22. To capitalise. A couple of visits to that danger zone in the first half. Same again there, just not as secure as they would have liked in the contact. Boroughmuir Bears send a clearing kick up the stand side touchline.
Yeah, when Douglas got in behind, Southern Knights looked to try and keep that momentum, keep it going. Alan Ferry picking up the ball, looking to make the Boroughmuir Bears defence work hard round the corner, make sure that they're getting back into defensive position, but you know, just not able to capitalise in the end. It is interesting to see that Sam Derrick is actually lining up in the kind of 12-13 position as well. So I think it looks like Zach Smith has left the field of play. So it's going to be a test of his rugby ability in the second 40 minutes. But he's a really talented young individual.
There's a 6-2 split on the bench. So Sam Derrick back row runs the shot line there, but doesn't get it. Go behind instead to Aidan Cross. Double tackle, the two players came off worse. That's bounce for Rory Brand. doesn't bounce kindly for him the second time, where he was clean through. Boroughmuir Bears just hacked that one off downfield. Ollie Melville. The Finn Douglas, we've already seen what he can do. Tries to go round the last man, but he's dealt with well by Mason Cullen again. Seemed a little bit in the side by Alex Tom, but the referee awards the penalty against Southern Knights for going off their feet. Boroughmuir Bears with the penalty. Could have gone horribly wrong over on the far side, and the referee involved in a collision with two Southern Knights players who both collapsed to the ground. The referee somehow stayed on his feet.
Yeah, I think Michael Todd will want to see that back in his highlight reel, because he's counted a couple of the big ball carriers from the Southern Knights, so it was a good show of strength from the referee. But in the end there, when it eventually came that passage of play, Douglas just getting a little bit isolated, was well tackled first up, and then it's got nowhere to really go, and Melville was the guilty party of sealing off there, just going over the ball, not allowing the ball to come back into play. So, you know, Southern Knights building and then falling into some old habits again and being penalised. But yeah, Michael Todd, a great show of strength. That's probably that's going to be in the highlight reel, surely.
Get a game for the Knights next season. It's good to see Finn Douglas, who scored the first Knights try 8 minutes into this game, with the confidence to have a go on the outside, but he was a little bit lateral, which made the tackle relatively easy for Mason Cullen. As you say, he was running away from his support, got himself isolated, and penalty to Boroughmuir Bears. Got some running repairs here to Jamie Campbell.
Yeah, I thought that in that passage of play, I thought it was a great challenge, a great tackle from Mason Cullen, but when he tried to get up and fight for the ball, it almost looked a bit clumsy, and I thought he potentially was straight off his feet. I thought it gave the Southern Knights an opportunity to get the ball back, but Melville was guilty of sealing off that ball. So, you know, the referee, Michael Todd, I think he's perhaps speaking to Dan Gamble now, because I think he was one of the players that was felled originally, so maybe making up.
Dan Gamble seeing the funny side of it. Good to see him in a Southern Knights jersey, formerly with Heriots, but of course local, relatively local. Kelso came up through the ranks there.
Yeah, I think it's good to see players of his ilk go back to the south of Scotland and play for the Southern Knights. You know, there's a lot of players have to go elsewhere for, you know, education and work opportunities. So it's always good when you do see Border players back in the area playing for the Border side. Same with the Edinburgh sides as well. You know, a lot of those players travel elsewhere. So it's always good to see some of the local talent coming through these various avenues to the professional ranks. So it's good to see Dan Gamble getting some good game time.
Ollie Melville penalised for going off his feet at the breakdown. Kick to touch by Arthur Allen. 10 minutes in the sin bin. The first half having dragged down the line-out maul, which led to the Southern Knights penalty try. Finds Fisher in the middle. Well, quickly fed back to Allen. Ground here, Boroughmuir Bears. Young just tells the forwards to keep working, keep going forward. Now Young will send this one out to the back line. He's got Robson waiting for it. It goes to Quinlan. To Joe Jenkins galloping down that left touchline. He's tackled well. Ball goes loose, snapped up by the Southern Knights. Let's take that one into contact, presumably setting themselves up an angle for the kick. Rory Brand on at scrum half. Threads it back through the legs of the Caterpillar. That will land in the arms of Adam Scott. Still on the Boroughmuir Bears 10-metre line, and he sees some space in behind. That could well be a 50-22. Just evaded Ollie Melville as it angled across field. Ross Maben, the assistant referee on this side, does stick the arm out towards Boroughmuir Bears. Fantastic kick.
Yeah, that was always going to be difficult for Melville to try and cover. The play was over on that far side, and when it was brought back, and eventually when Scott got the ball in his hands, you could just see him craning his neck to the corner, which had oodles of space, and it was a perfectly executed kick. Got the benefit of the bounce as well, and just goes off in the 22 area. So, you know, a defensive kick turns into something which is going to be a great attacking opportunity.
No score so far in the opening 5 minutes of the second half. What can Boroughmuir Bears do from here? Once again, they get that line-out maul set up in the hands of Arthur Allen. break off to the right and find themselves a bit of a gap to drive through. Take play up now to 7 or 8 metres away from the Knights try line. Breakaway, they've been tackled by the Knights, so they'll play away again. In behind the forward, Robson to Quinlan. Thought about the pass, straightens, taken down by Russell Anderson. Switch of direction, and up comes Will Hopes racing out the line there. Spot tackle by the Knights second row. Start this week, Liam McConnell. Shimmy takes that into contact. Bears have just lost 2 or 3 metres here. Josh King again gets them on the front foot. Carried by the second row. Ian Carmichael on now in the front row. Another front row, Marcus Goodwin. The Bears forwards come racing round the corner. Matched though by the Southern Knights defence. Attack and defence equal to each other for now. Jack Fisher again. And now they're going very close. Boroughmuir Bears pick and go again. See Alan Ferry in there, referee says short. Brody Young waits on this one, coming back. In behind the forwards, Quinlan with a long pass out there. And this could be the try, good footwork there. And over goes Mason Cullen. Great work there by the Boroughmuir Bears right wing. And they picked their moment well. They allowed the forwards to carry, they sucked in that Southern Knights defence. And then they went wide, that long pass by Tom Quinlan into the arms of Mason Cullen. He still had an awful lot of work to do. Stepped twice off his right foot and over the try line.
Yeah, I think it's exactly what you said there. They picked their moment to go wide because it was relentless pressure again up front, and you just thought it was only a matter of time before one of the big ball carriers got over, but they spotted the space because they'd sucked all that defence in. You see there, Brand and Douglas are the players that are the furthest out. They've got to cover that space, and that's because the defensive line's all disjointed. The defence was so congested in that, towards that contact area, that it was well picked out there. It looked like it was a difficult ball from Quinlan when he did distribute it to Cullen on the wing, but well gathered, well finished from a winger. A dangerous player on the wing, Mason Cullen, and showing what he can do from close angles.
I thought Quinlan perhaps had taken the wrong option to throw it straight to the wing, and maybe should have gone through the hands. It just allowed the Knights defence to slide across, but I underestimated the footwork of Mason Cullen. And Quinlan, with a wonderful kick, curls this one round from the more difficult side for him. And Boroughmuir Bears, having trailed 17 points to 14, 15 minutes before half time, have now established a fairly healthy looking 9 points advantage.
Yeah, and I think that especially that try, it's what I kind of alluded to in the first half. Southern Knights are a good team when they've got the ball in hand, but the difficulty is when they play teams that like to retain possession for a long time. You know, they struggle, and that all comes back to that kick there from Adam Scott as well. You know, that was a 50-22, kicking it into the corner, getting that attacking opportunity, and they eventually score.
So the Bears perhaps a little more clinical with their visits to the 22, again coming away with points. And it's taken by Fisher from the restart. Forward comes Jack Dobie racing off the line to make the tackle. Counter ruck by Dan Gamble. It goes straight up in the air, tapped back by Ian Carmichael. He would have been out the 10 there, but maybe played onside by another Boroughmuir Bears player. Anyway, they send that one long. Grieve waiting on it. Weighs up his options. Chip over the top there, that should be taken by Joe Jenkins. Scragged there by Callum Grieve as he chased his own kick, but it's with Boroughmuir Bears just on their side of halfway. And Carmichael certainly getting himself involved in the action. Come on at half time. Again, they'll go to the skies through Brody Young.
Wait, stop and hold over 10. Hold.
Just sends that one back into Boroughmuir Bears territory. Adam Scott decides to run that one, taken down by Will Holtz. He's looked dangerous with ball in hand, Adam Scott, Boroughmuir Bears fullback. Ian McConnell, Scotland under-20 captain. Again, space in behind. Judged well by Finn Douglas as he went back. Could be taken down by Mason Cullen. Will it open up for the Knights' left winger? Goes across field. Still hasn't been brought down. Eventually dragged to deck on the Knights' 22. It's with the forwards. It's a good carry again by Alan Ferry. Played well last week and again to the fore. Nice tip on by Russell Anderson. Ball being lost, it has indeed. Frustrating for the Southern Knights, and look to be building nicely for them there. It'll be a Boroughmuir Bears scrum.
Yeah, you know, there was parts of that play that were really good from the Knights. They were able to build a little bit of momentum. Good running from Douglas across field to go to where the supporting players were. But just Boroughmuir at this stage just look a little bit more relaxed, a little bit more composed in what they're doing. You know, putting pressure. They're using that kicking game impeccably as well through Quinlan and Scott. You know, able to look at the spaces in the park and kick their team into the right area. You know, a lot of pressure from Mason Cullen on that kick on Douglas means that Douglas has to go in field. You know, he's not wanting that one-on-one opportunity. He has to go back in field, and it means that, you know, you're tempting and teasing the opposition out of their own half. It just brings a little mistake in there. Now I think this was the little passage of play that eventually resulted in that knock-on. You could see the ball carriers just going forward. I think Dan Gamble just guilty of not looking after the ball in contact. A lot of players there in support as well for the Southern Knights, but just not able to keep the ball in hand.
Well, Hopes didn't seem to be involved in that. It was him who was receiving some treatment. Seems to be okay though.
Yeah, there was an earlier tackle. I watched Hopes and he bolted out the defensive line and put a huge challenge, and then just instantly started stretching his calf. So he obviously cramped up or, you know, pulled something quite quickly. But it's good to see him shake that off and pass it back in the pack.
A solid line-out target today for Southern Knights. He's carried well, he's tackled well. Off the bench, he played about 40 minutes last week and was one of the standout players. So I'm surprised to see him starting alongside Jamie Campbell in the second row today.
Bind! Set! 9, stay back.
Solid scrum by Boroughmuir Bears. Are going to keep that ball in there. Penalty advantage. The Knights seem to have dominance earlier in the game, but the last couple of scrums would suggest that's now shifted the way of Boroughmuir Bears.
Yeah, you can see the celebrations there as well. Westlake, he's very vocal. A bit of a potty mouth, but he's very vocal. But it's you know, good work up front from the Boroughmuir Bears, because the Southern Knights mostly in the front eight. You know, they've been on top of the opposition, and slowly but surely, you know, the Boroughmuir Bears are just starting to turn the screw a little bit on the Knights, especially when it comes to these sort of things, controlling the game, controlling the scoreboard, and kicking the team back towards their own goal line.
Still half an hour left in this one. Boroughmuir Bears can really take the game by the scruff of the neck. Score from here. Josh King again, the target in the line out.
One, sideways! Okay, move!
So Bears being asked to play away here. Robson was an option, but Joe Jenkins clean through the middle. However, the referee says he was taking the defender out. As they run that line, you'll see that umpteen times in any game of rugby, and it will be allowed to play on. But if we see that one on the replay, perhaps Scott Robson, the captain, did take a man out, because there was a huge hole there for Joe Jenkins.
Yeah, you can see here, well formed, starting to crab inside as well. And the Knights just looking to travel with this and look for his opportunity to strike. Eventually gets his hands on the ball. And there's just that little bit of crossing. You can see the referee just saying that the Southern Knights player was obstructed there. He just caught a glimpse of it. As you say, Bruce, it's one of those decisions that, you know, 9 times out of 10 the referee doesn't let it play.
Standard blocker player, I think probably the most common or popular, whatever you want to call it, play in rugby at the minute. But Callum Grieve was deemed to have been taken out by Scott Robson. Penalty to Southern Knights. They kick to touch, win the ball from the line out. And here comes Aidan Cross, and there's numbers in space here. Away goes Finn Douglas, getting more and more into the game. bounces nicely for Joe Jenkins. And he sends that one down the right touchline. Takes play back into the Southern Knights half.
Good play first phase. The Southern Knights looking to use that width. They managed to manipulate that overlap as well. The kick from Douglas downfield as well was a difficult one to gather, but eventually, the bounce of the ball was fortunate for the Bears. It means they can clear the lines. Sometimes when your luck's in, and you feel the now, because of the way Boroughmuir Bears are playing, they benefit from the bounce of the ball, but it's because they're controlling the game.
Russell Anderson to Will Hopes again. Rudy Brown breaks away from the line out, driven to deck by Arthur Allen. It's like Eram Demirel on now in the second row for the Southern Knights. He certainly had bulk for the pack. Rory Brand giving a bit of a telling off there by the referee, trying to milk a penalty. Good work there by Boroughmuir Bears defence. Create them all there at the tackle, and then it doesn't come back immediately on the Southern Knights side, so of course that means turnover ball, Boroughmuir Bears scrum.
Yeah, definitely. It was again just the play slowed down there because of the pressure at the ruck there from Boroughmuir Bears. And as you say, you can hear the communication with from Michael Todd to Rory Brand saying not the penalty, and how dare he. But it was certainly eventually when the play run to ground, just a little bit of carelessness, and I think that's because the Boroughmuir Bears are controlling the game. They're dictating how Southern Knights are attacking them as well, and just leading them into down dark alleys to have opportunities to try and turn over the ball.
Will Hopes stretching again. It's the pitch. He's feeling his calves. See how much longer he will last. Westlake again controlling this at the base as Boroughmuir Bears look to win another penalty from the set piece, but will just spin round, so the referee will reset it.
Both running around in the spot, lads, no dominance, reset.
Forward on the loose head side of the Bears scrum, but the referee explaining to them that there was no dominance.
And that's a fresh front row for the Bears as well. It's still the original front row for the Knights. So it's going to be a different battle in the scrum now, and you'll see if the early replacements for the Bears can pay dividends in the forward battle.
It's a strong replacement front row for the Bears. Blythe Lafferty at hooker, and Carmichael and Martin McGinley. However, it's too much weight, the referee saying, coming through from the Bears. There's a free kick awarded to the Southern Knights.
Yeah, you could see that they were just putting a little bit too much pressure on it, the engagement, and just started to nudge the Knights back just before the ball was put in. So it's a good spot from Michael Todd.
Yeah, just have to speak to them, lads. No hit and chase, stability on the set, no hit and chase. That's what I saw.
So Southern Knights opt for the scrum from the free kick. Rory Brand discusses a quick word with his half-back partner Callum Grieve.
Coach! Bind! Set!
Rudy Brown still at the base for Southern Knights. I think they'll be called into action here. Pixon just gives it to Brand as he go down the blind side. He's got Aidan Cross with him. Good break by Brand. Throws the dummy, takes play into the 22. He's still going, Rory Brand. Spins his way through another tackle. Stopped a metre or two short. So Southern Knights, a fantastic opportunity to get themselves right back into the game here. Eram Demirel lurking. Rory Brand gives it to Demirel. Taken to deck, still 2 or 3 metres short. Russell Anderson now is scrum half. Pixon goes, he had Brown there with him. Instead, went himself the captain. Jack Dobie this time lurking. Dan Gamble there. 2 props drive towards the Boroughmuir Bears try line. Again, pick and go round the corner. Alan Ferry. Again, just trying to tighten up that Boroughmuir Bears defence. A hint of space out wide now, but that's very slow ball as the Southern Knights backs flooded round to the right, so still with the forwards. In fact, that's been stolen by Boroughmuir Bears. Great work by the Bears defence. not the best of kicks. It does go out into touch just 10 or 12 metres away from the try line, but Boroughmuir Bears, not for the first time in this game, survive a goal line attack.
Yeah, there's been 3 occasions that I can think of, in this game that they've been under relentless pressure and been able to turn over the ball or put enough pressure at the breakdown that it just completely disrupted the cohesion of the passage of play from the Southern Knights. Just made that breakdown really messy, made it an absolute dogfight in there, and then they were able to get their hands in their mitts in there as it started to disperse. So the great work from the Boroughmuir Bears in defence again. It's a fragile 9-point lead that they've currently got, and they're certainly clinging on to it just now. Great break by Brand as well. That was straight off a scrum, had options on the outside from Cross, showed good power and pace, and after that as well, after Ferry carried, he was able to get up to the next breakdown and recycle himself. Great energy. I think he's a cracking scrum half.
I'm not sure if we can have another look at the breakdown. The Boroughmuir Bears turned that ball over. I don't know if the Southern Knights had just maybe lost the focus slightly because the backs came flooding around the corner to set up. They were clearly going to play it away. Brand was just biding his time, waiting on the moment to pass it. And Boroughmuir Bears just came flooding through the breakdown and turned that one over. I'd say just as well, because I think Knights probably did have space and numbers down the right flank.
I think that passage of play showed that the difficulties that the Knights have had. Just when they're looking to strike and go to the right hand side there, they just weren't able to strike at the right time. So you can see there just the Boroughmuir Bears just making a mess of that breakdown, putting a bit of pressure on, trying to drive through, getting bodies in the road, lifting legs, and eventually it was just a matter of power. They were nudging over, so that's all it is. It's a power game in there.
You can't see the Knights had 5 players off to the left of your shot there, just waiting on that ball coming out, but it never appeared. However, they do have possession inside the Bears 22 again from the line out. Captain Russell Anderson with the ball, he breaks away and just drops the ball off to Adam Hall inside centre. And Ferry again, the referee playing an advantage for offside, so Rory Brand and Grieve will have a go wide. Ollie Melville, he didn't cross with him, opts to take it into contact. Erm Demerel, the ball out the back, and the flat pass to Will Hopes as well. The half spin out the tackle of Scott McGinley. The referee says no advantage accruing. He'll go back for the penalty.
Captain, 2 PKs. Corner.
We'll kick again to the corner. They've looked good when they win the ball from the line out and set them all up, and they should get themselves pretty close here. Up goes the assistant referee's flag. It's about 7 metres away. Assistant referee David Chan lying on that side of the pitch.
Yeah, good chance here for the Southern Knights again, just to really utilise that driving ball with some fresh legs in the park as well. Anderson needs to find his target.
Hopes, I imagine, will be the man. He has to reach across for that. Didn't quite get their timing right, wasn't at the top of his jump as that ball sailed almost over his head, got fingertips to it, knocked down onto the Boroughmuir Bears side. Some frustration again for the Southern Knights. They've still got 18 minutes left to play in this one, and a try for the Knights who get themselves right back into it. But from the kick, Martin McGinley comes up with it. Good chase by the Bears open side. Out the front row, Rory Brand tried to steal that one in the contact. Again, Brodie Young goes to the air, doesn't get a huge amount of distance on that one. 2 Knights players go up for it. Ball being knocked on, it has indeed. Moving cross coming forward. 2 Knights players getting in each other's way, so it'll be a scrum feed for the Boroughmuir Bears.
A couple of opportunities there that the Knights have had in the Bears 22, just not able to capitalise. The last one is probably the one that's criminal, because Hopes isn't at the top of his jump. Anderson can't hit his target, and it goes straight into Boroughmuir Bears' hands. But just after that, I think it's getting slightly scrappy with the box kicks, but I think that plays into Boroughmuir Bears' hands, because they can feed off of these loose balls and perhaps capitalise, because it's the Southern Knights that are chasing the game. So it's starting to kind of unthread slightly, but it's not a bad thing for the Boroughmuir Bears.
Bears perhaps Sharks look for a penalty again from the scrum. Westlake still at the back. Now the pressure comes on from the Southern Knights this time, and they win the penalty. A great scrum there by the Southern Knights, forces the Boroughmuir Bears front row to go up. So opportunity perhaps not lost, as they will find a position again inside that Boroughmuir Bears 22.
Good kick there from Grieve, and you felt that during that passage of play, the Boroughmuir Bears are actually starting to grow into the game in terms of the battle of the scrum. And I think those replacements for Southern Knights have worked, bringing the likes of Greer and Harrison off the bench, showing their strength up front as well, counteracting the early replacements from the Bears.
Martin McGinley comes away with that. It's a huge carry from the replacement, tight head drop, ripped though by Rudy Brown. So back with Southern Knights, having initially lost it from the line out. Rory Brand waiting on this one. Fight to get it back. Be a little bit heated in there. It's been competitive between the two sets of forwards. Doesn't come back. Referee explaining, player trapped, can't come back, scrum down, Knights ball.
Again, a really scrappy line out there, just not able to find the target.
Don't have a go at me and then walk away shaking your head. As a captain, you set the example, that's not what it is. I've seen that he's released and then played it again. If you have a different opinion, that's it, that's how I've seen it. Unplayable.
Refereeing there by Michael Todd, not taking any nonsense from Scott Robson, Bears captain today, in the absence of Craig Kerry.
Stay down, drive through, stay down under pressure. I've just spoken to them. Crouch! Bind! Set!
What can the Knights do from here? Go right again, Rudy Brown to Brand. Threatened a change of direction, instead gives it to Aidan Cross, going backwards. Tried down by Westlake. Managed to get the ball away to Alan Ferry. To Russell Anderson, who just dips the shoulder, takes it into contact. Rudy Brown into secure possession. Now Grieve with a couple of options, goes out the back. Ollie Melville, good hands there to Finn Douglas, puts boot to ball. But it's charged down by Scott Robson. Again, not for the first time in this game, racing across in defence, the captain. And forces that one into touch. However, it will still be Southern Knights throw into the line out, about 10 metres away from the Bears try line. We've seen what they can do from here. Get towards that stage in the game, 15 minutes left to play, where they really do need to score and set up a grandstand finish here at the Greenyards.
Yeah, good option there from Douglas though, just to kick it. And it's ricocheted off a body, giving the Knights a good attacking position. Again though, that's 3 line-outs in a row that the Knights in great attacking positions have just coughed up the ball and given it back to the Bears.
Timing issue perhaps. Aaron Demerel was the target, beaten to it by one of the Boroughmuir Bears players. Finn Douglas not hanging about, quick throw in to Ollie Melville. Good work there by the fullback. Ties George Paul in knots. Now away goes Owen Harrison, on in the front row now for the Southern Knights. Ferry just knocking that ball on, trying to take it into contact. Ball kicked through, bounces up nicely for Aidan Cross. Back to Ollie Melville. The referee, you could hear him screaming that was carried back. Ollie Melville either didn't hear him or didn't execute this kick properly. Either way, he's kicked that one out on the full, which of course, because it was carried back into the 22, means the line-out will be back in line with where he kicked it. So it just hands possession in a very good attacking position to the Boroughmuir Bears.
Yeah, if you were chasing a 9-point deficit and you wanted 20 seconds of bad decisions, it's probably just happened there for the Knights. Quick throw at the line out, just not able to get in behind, unforced error, gives the ball back and then kicking out in the full. That's a huge turnaround from being in a great attacking position from a line out, knocking at the door, and all of a sudden they're back in their own 22.
That will have frustrated the Southern Knights coaching team, no doubt. Still Boroughmuir Bears with that 9 points advantage. Plenty of time for the Knights still to get back into this one, but they'll have to be much more clinical when they're presented with opportunities, and they'll have to keep Boroughmuir Bears out here. As away goes Jerry Blythe-Lafferty from the base. Forward comes Adam Hall to shut that one down. In behind Tristan Andrews, and then Joe Jenkins again pops up off his left wing. Throws the ball inside to nobody in particular, but it's picked up by Callum Ram. And he gets away from the tackle and he'll go in the corner. Great work there by Callum Ram. Tackle really should have been made. I think Kieran Clark, the man who misses it. And Callum Ram, strong running by the Boroughmuir Bears replacement. And he scores the try that will probably win this game for the visitors.
Yeah, got a bit scrappy, but Ram able to scoop up the ball. There's 3-4 Southern Knights players there looking to get the free arm, and eventually just the grabbing of the shirts just yields for the Southern Knights, and he just manages to mosey his way in for a score right in the corner. And you just think about before what had happened in terms of how games swing. The Knights have been, for 5-10 minutes, relentless pressure in the Boroughmuir Bears 22, a couple of bad decisions, and all of a sudden slip tackles and snake hips. Ram is able just to weave his way in the corner, and it's now a huge advantage that the Boroughmuir Bears have.
5 tries for Boroughmuir Bears. It's perhaps been a little bit unkind to Kieran Clark, because Callum Ram somehow managed to wriggle his way out of about 5 tackles in his way to the try line there. Simply disappointing. No doubt annoy Alan Tate, the Southern Knights head coach, who himself was an outstanding defender.
You see it here again, just the passage of play itself was scrappy, and when the ball goes to ground there, it's just not killed at all by the Southern Knights. A lot of players up there, but great awareness from Ram. That is all about leg drive, endeavour, awareness as well, and he knew the finish was on. Just a little kick at the heels and in he goes.
Flirting with that touchline as well to stay in the field of play. Great play by the replacement fullback. Dink over the top, this should bounce up nicely for Rory Brand. Weighs up his options, goes past Mason Cullen, then heads backwards. Hard by Tristan Andrews.
No, he's not on ball, he's on body.
Then comes Demerel. It's a loose pass, but bounces up nicely for Grieve. Demerel has to go in and secure that under a lot of pressure from Kieran Westlake.
That's a mess, get him back to the offside.
The referee saying no advantage there to the Southern Knights. Boroughmuir Bears offside. Now 14 points the difference. I think the best that Knights can hope for in the closing 10 minutes of this one would be a couple of tries, get themselves a draw somehow from a game that they'll feel they should have done much better in.
Yeah, you think about 5 minutes ago this was a different game we were watching, and now all of a sudden the Knights are having to try and get themselves back into positions, and they're now having to try and reset all the accuracy that they've been lacking over the last kind of 10-15 minutes. In a similar position now in the Boroughmuir Bears 22, a chance for Anderson to hit his target, but he's not been able to do it in the last three lineouts. So this is going to be an interesting set piece here.
Well, he's lost hopes and he's lost Campbell over his go-to line-out options. Demerel again, can't get the ball. So the line-out really has fallen to pieces, and it was a weapon for the Southern Knights earlier in the game. Martin McGinley, the carry, and now Rory Swan on it. Scrum half for Boroughmuir Bears. No messing about there by Swan, just punches that into touch.
Yeah, you know that we're talking a lot about is Russell Anderson is actually going to be replaced here, but we've spoken a lot about the last 4 lineouts, and obviously they didn't go to plan. There was 2 that were perhaps the Southern Knights' fault, and there was 2 that were Boroughmuir Bears just reading it well. You know, sometimes when teams are down, it's easy to kick them, but you know, Boroughmuir Bears were reading the lineouts well. They were able to watch the jumpers, follow them, track them, and steal. Now it's Craig Greer who's going to take over throwing duties for the Southern Knights.
As you can see, replacement hooker Finn Barry at the front of the Knights line out. Craig Greer, the loose head prop, to throw in unusually. Tristan Andrews, some treatment.
Certainly going to be an early tester as well for Greer, because confidence will be low. It'll be high in the opposition in terms of reading the line out, but it'll certainly be ropey for the Knights.
A bit of movement there, and it works for them, because Greer does find Demerel at the front. Whipped out quickly through the hands of Grieve to Rudy Brown in the midfield. Released the ball, got back to his feet and went again and again. It's a good work there by the Southern Knights, number 8. It's a good 10 or 15 metres for his side, takes play to just outside the Boroughmuir Bears 22. Alan Ferry now. Back row working well for the Southern Knights. And now Ollie Melville out in the wide channels, ball back inside to Kieran Clark. Hit hard on the tackle, but play now just on the fringes of that Boroughmuir Bears 22. Through the forwards again, that's been stolen by Boroughmuir Bears at the breakdown. However, they then infringe by going over the top of the breakdown. I think Rory Brand has taken a sore one there.
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting conversation, but you can see that the build-up in play here. Here, Michael Todd over his microphone as well, but Rory Brand was just behind the next ruck there. I know what's coming here, but it's obviously, I think you watch that back, and I think David Changlang and Michael Todd will perhaps see a different version of that. It's difficult in real time, we benefit from highlights, but there was certainly Tristan Andrews came in and absolutely clattered Brand on the head. I think that was, he's lucky that's a yellow. It wouldn't matter anyway in terms of the game.
Just about to say though, they don't have the benefit of a monitor that we do, but that did look like head contact. You can hear the referee say he didn't have any mitigation. He obviously thought it wasn't head contact in this discussion with David Chang Leng. So yellow card given, as you say, we offer the remainder of the game. Erin Demerel. So Boroughmuir Bears down to 14 here. Southern Knights have taken that one to deck themselves, the referee says, so no penalty. And it doesn't come back. That will frustrate the Southern Knights again. Rory Brand was waiting on that coming back, of course, because it was a collapsed maul that doesn't emerge. Ball turned over, and Boroughmuir Bears have a scrum feed here. We're going into the closing 7 minutes in this game. The Southern Knights, they just seem to have wasted umpteen opportunities inside that Bears 22.
Yeah, you can hear a lot of the frustrations boiling over. Obviously, the language is obviously a bit choice at times, but you can hear it, and it's frustrating for both sides. You know, the Southern Knights trying and being forced into errors, maybe not being able to just fully capitalise on the territorial advantage that they have. And Boroughmuir Bears just digging in, looking to make sure that they run as much time out of this game as possible and hold on for this win.
The Knights will look to put pressure on at the scrum here. Solid Bears scrum to get it moving forward. The referee says both front rows going up, though, so they'll reset.
Yeah, another chance for the scrums to lock on. So it's been an interesting battle in the forwards as well. You know, we did say the game has been really forward orientated. It's been really focused up front. That's another chance here with the replacements to just add another chapter to the battle in the tight areas.
Crouch! Bind! Set!
Rory Swan again into the Bears scrum. No messing about this time, just quickly off to Robson. Bounces off the tackle of Rory Brand. So not to kick. Just go through another phase. So Swan this time will kick, sends it over the top. Fairly flat looking kick into touch. Aidan Cross lurking over there, but never had any chance of getting that. He's just fallen over the hoardings. Seemed to have injured himself.
Come across, please.
Yeah, just the times perhaps just getting slightly away from the Southern Knights now, even with a man advantage, just not able to just find that consistency in their play so far. You know, the second half they've perhaps not really pushed on from where they built. It was a promising first 40 minutes. They'll be hoping to the last roll of the dice here.
Out it goes to Aidan Cross, pops up off his right wing. Tackled well by Mason Cullen. Again, the Bears trying to win possession, and again they win the penalty. Been very effective at the breakdown today, the Boroughmuir Bears. It's always a real target of theirs in games. One of the best at it. The Knights will be frustrated that they've just at times allowed separation between the ball carrier and the cleaners. But credit to Boroughmuir Bears in that department today.
Yeah, you know, Boroughmuir Bears, you look at their back row. Westlake's been impressive carrying the ball, but you know, McConnell and McGinley good over the ball. Fisher and King in the middle row as well. You know, their players, like King, is equally as comfortable in the back row as well. You know, they're players that are, you know, they just love those opportunities. They love a sniff of a jackal.
Cross, thank you. No 50-22. Oh, he's in.
Good work at the back there by Finn Douglas. Tidies up at the back for Southern Knights.
Thank you, man. Come on, please, Green.
Jerry Blythe Lafferty thrown to the line out. Douglas still getting some treatment. Jumps back to his feet and will be called into action in defence here. It's in the hands of Jerry Blythe Lafferty, who breaks away. Dealt with by Rudy Brown. Herb Demerel in there as well, just trying to stop that ball coming out. And this time it's the Southern Knights who create them all. Doesn't come back in the Bears side. It'll be a Southern Knights scrum. We've got about 2 or 3 minutes left in this one. And it's fair to say that the Bears will leave the Greenyards with a solid bonus point victory. Dale, time for you to think about your FOSROC player of the match.
I think there's a couple of players out there. I think mostly on the Boroughmuir Bears side. You know, for the Southern Knights, I think the back rows performed well. But equally, the same can be said for Boroughmuir Bears. I think that McConnell and McGinley were good. Westlake's been impressive. I mentioned King as well. I think he's been really impressive now, playing back in the back row. But I think that all only works if your nine's ticking, and you can see the try that Brodie Young got. You know, being able to capitalise on that good play that he's getting us forwards into good areas. So the FOSROC player of the match is Boroughmuir Bears number 9, Brodie Young.
Out into the wide channels again go the Southern Knights. Aidan Cross with those pink boots, tackled just short of halfway. And then Rory Brand spins his way through contact, finds Alan Ferry, takes play up over halfway. Brand again runs with the ball, space opens up in front of him. Dragged down eventually by Ian Carmichael. Aidan Cross in his scrum half. De Grieve, the Melville flat pass, I think was intended for Finn Douglas, instead taken by Rudy Brown. Working out there in the wide channels, the big number 8. Back to Alan Ferry. Thought about the pass instead. Just drives another 2 or 3 metres forward. Southern Knights work their way up towards the 22. Again through the hands of the half-backs to Adam Hall. Not had much space this afternoon. Southern Knights inside centre. Bears pile into that breakdown again, but it should come back. Well, the referee allowed blasting the whistle. I think somebody perhaps injured as the Boroughmuir Bears trying to disrupt the Southern Knights possession again at the breakdown. Looks like Jack Fisher has taken a sore one in there.
Yeah, it was quite physical in that breakdown, especially the build up to it as well. A lot of big carries. You know, that's what you get at this level, this Super Series level. The physicality of all the players and all the teams. They certainly do not hold back. I think Jack Fisher perhaps has just been caught in the wrong position. A bit of pain on the left leg there. You see a carry forward, big challenge. Adam Hall carrying well in there, but Fisher getting himself in a good position to try and jackal that ball. You can see his leg just in the wrong position. And a big squeal as well as he notices that he's perhaps done something slightly innocuous, but definitely sore. He just came out the side of that ruck, and okay, that's a danger. It's a big talking point in the game as well when you're going in over the ball, getting your body in a really awkward position. You know, you're running the risk of injuries, and they can be, you know, the most serious of injuries. But it's good to see him back on his feet now, hobbling back into position. So all is well.
Is it a decent game? Again, real workhorses. Bears second rows, Josh Kenyon, Jack Fisher. Nothing fancy, very solid carry ball, good in the line out.
I like Josh Kenyon. I think he is a good player. Obviously, he played a bit in Stirling. He played for Biggar as well. You know, he was also kind enough to give us free champagne at Bonnie Badger where he worked. So he was. I think it would have been a little bit amiss of me if I awarded him player of the match. But you know, he's just never stopped. Great engine, and I think that's what they get from their second rows.
Time is going beyond the 80-minute mark, so last chance for Southern Knights. It's dropped by Rory Brand, but backwards. It's still Brand in possession. There's a ball over his shoulder, back inside. Aiden Cross again. Heavily involved in the game in the last 5 or 10 minutes. Brand again goes digging. Off to Camby Thompson. In the squad today, a Kelso player. And now there's space out there. Good route to ball. This one will have to sit up for Douglas. Back instead goes Callum Ram. He scored the last try for Boroughmuir Bears and finishes the game by touching down behind his own goal line as the referee blows for full time. Certainly an evenly matched first half. Boroughmuir Bears going in just 2 points ahead. They had the better of the second half with 2 tries through Mason Cullen and Callum Ram. We'll look at those in just a second. Boroughmuir Bears well worth their win here this afternoon.
Yeah, I thought they were narrowly the better team in the first half, and then they were the best team in the second half by quite a distance. I think they just played rugby in the right areas. They were able to really squeeze Southern Knights and really force them into errors, and it was the errors that ended up gifting and rewarding Boroughmuir Bears with the final prize. So certainly a well-deserved victory from the men from Megaland.
So Mason Cullen, the Boroughmuir Bears right wing, scored the Bears bonus point try 8 minutes into the second half. That was a long ball thrown out by Quinlan. We thought perhaps should have gone through the hands. Cullen still had a lot of work to do. 2 defenders in front of him, good footwork, and over he went for the try.
Yeah, again, brilliant play from the forwards just to set that up. Persistent pressure, and then as you say, perhaps the other options were available, but just able to throw that big loopy pass to Cullen, and that's exactly what he feeds off. That's what he wants. He wants the balls in one-on-one situations so he can dart back inside and create footwork off his right foot, back in field. Just evades a couple of challenges, and the dive over the line just evades Callum Grieve, not able to get underneath him.
And then Callum Ram, replacement fullback, who somehow got his way out of about 5 Southern Knights tackles. The ball thrown hopefully in field by Joe Jenkins, bounced up nicely for Ram, and then he wriggled his way down that right touchline and scored a try that really killed this one off.
Yeah, that was the try that really took the wind out of the sails of the Southern Knights, because there was still a game to be played. And it's just probably the worst thing will be is how soft it came, because Boroughmuir Bears were well contained there. The ball goes loose, Southern Knights aren't able to grab it, and Ram is able just to squeeze through, keeps that free arm as well, and then powers his way towards the line. And it's that little kick of the heels as well, which just tries to evade the defenders, and Finn Douglas is never getting back to make that tackle. But it was after that we still had a bit of time to play, but certainly, Boroughmuir Bears well deserved of their victory.
To see confirmation of the final score there. Let's have a look at all of the results from this weekend. Starting on Friday night, the Ayrshire Bulls had a thumping win over Watsonians Rugby. Remember, led only 26 points to 24 at half time, but then raced away with it in the second half against 14-man Watsonians Rugby. 13 tries in total in that game last night, quite unbelievable. And then our 3 o'clock kickoff at Golden Acre this afternoon, it's Heriot's Rugby who saw off the challenge of Stirling Wolves, 26 points to 19. And then our final game of the weekend, Southern Knights 19, Boroughmuir Bears 33. So the league table, with the 6 scheduled league games played ahead of next weekend's playoffs, and it's Ayrshire Bulls sitting pretty at the top. Not had things all their own way, 1 loss and 1 draw. They're only 2 points ahead of Heriot's Rugby, a real turnaround in form for them. And that first against second playoff will be through at Milbray next Friday night. And then Watsonians Rugby will take on Stirling Wolves at 5 o'clock next Saturday, and the third against fourth playoff. And then we'll have a repeat of this game up at Meggetland next weekend. So Boroughmuir Bears will certainly go into that one as favourites, having seen off the challenge of Southern Knights down here at the Greenyards this afternoon. Can the Knights turn things around next Saturday at 3 o'clock? So thank you for watching and joining us for all of our games this weekend, and we'll be back next weekend with those playoff finals.